when you're speaking to us, like, I hear like an edge of almost like enthusiastic motivation coming out of you to help us understand something.
Yeah.
For some reason in me that seems to sit in a kind of opposing fashion to, if we really have no will, we couldn't do anything about the madness in the mind anyway.
Yeah.
How do they meet?
It's impossible to explain actually. I'll try, but because when you see yourself as a doer, everyone else you see, you will also see as a doer. And so you'll interpret me or you'll interpret others as doing something. But what's happening here and what's happening there, it's just here there's no longer the ideas and beliefs that I'm saying this. This is coming from absolute emptiness. The mouth's moving, the sounds are coming out.
So because that's just coming through you, can you see, I mean, when you look at a person, do you see them in the way when I look at a person, you see the same thing?
I see emptiness.
And are you speaking to that emptiness? Is the voice speaking to that emptiness or to confusion? Or?
Well, I don't really have any intellectual concepts for it. It's just what's happening. I'm not thinking, oh, I'm speaking to emptiness, I'm not speaking to emptiness.
But it's because it sounds as if there is a part somewhere in here that could, by the way that the message is coming through, that could make a choice, that could choose to do something different.
Yeah. It's weird, isn't it? This is what we were talking about kind of yesterday.
Me and Nikki are friends, and we went to see a guy the other week, and he said that while we're in this kind of normal state, then we're a mistake. We're just locked into all these compulsions, and we're not actually making any choices. It's just complete compulsive living, one after the other. And then he said that when you have the experience of the empty mind, then you can learn that you are the creator of self, and you can make choices from that.
Yeah.
But before that, there's no choices.
I think this is what a guy was talking about the other week. He came and asked questions like this, like, it's actually, from this perspective, it's not seen like that. And I now understand, is he a teacher in Tyrion?
No.
And because this other guy was saying that, he was like saying he was God and he could make these decisions in this new integration.
Like I was wondering, like what you said about your internet business this week.
Yeah.
The idea arose.
Yeah.
And then the internet business came.
Yeah.
Could that, at some level, be a choice that you're actually able to make choices?
No. It's actually quite different from what he said. What the experience is here is it was seen that I was not the one choosing any of the thoughts or the actions. And then that one, it seemed like over a period of time, but it was never me that saw it, it was just seen, it was just exposed in the story of Lisa, that there was no one here. And then over a period of time, the seeking energy began to fall away. And then there was a bit of a boom at the end. And then there was like a, from here, the attention was out back in the world again. But there's still nobody here making choices. Choices arise, but it doesn't in any way feel like I make them, because I don't associate myself with thoughts and urges anymore. Although they arise in this, I'm that which is watching, the silent watcher which has no choice, makes no choice, it's empty.
And no choices can come not from thoughts, from someplace else.
Actually, choices are a combination of thoughts and energies, like pulses. put into the body. Like sometimes you make a choice and it's just an urge coming from the body. Sometimes you just go to the shop and you've picked up the apple juice and you haven't even thought about anything. So it's a combination. Sometimes it's thoughts, sometimes it's bodily sensations, sometimes it's both. But they're not who I am. They happen in me. But it's not like they're not who I am as well, because they're happening in this. But there's no one in here making that choice. They're coming from nothing, from absolute emptiness. The emptiness which watches everything. And so now it's not like there's somebody in here who can choose. They just appear, the choices. But they're not separate from me either, but they're not mine. They come from absolute empty space. I didn't make them, but they appear in me. Does that make sense? It's a bit confusing. And so this guy the other day, when he was saying what he was saying to me, that now he can choose anything he wants, I didn't understand where he was coming from. Because it's not that I can choose anything I want. The choices just appear, but it's also not that there's separation from those choices. They're here, and the urges happen. But it couldn't have been any other way. There's nobody here that could choose anything else. It's like the same as the bird flying in the sky. I never chose it to do that, and it's exactly the same way in which the thoughts and the urges appear. And now the attention has shifted from being this separate self, which believed it was making all those choices and doing all those things, to just the watching of everything arising in it. So everything is me, but at the same time, there's no me in here choosing anything. It's just appearing.
It's very difficult to understand what would be the benefit, but like, does God still get excitement after knowing the whole story and just experiencing the sensations of it without the mystery of what's going to happen at the end? Is it? Anyway, it's just, boggles thoughts.
Yeah.
About why would it be enjoyable now?
Because, but I don't think God's like this isn't like a human who has whys and motive. This is an energetic force expressing itself. Or not even an energetic force, this is expression. It's like an artist painting, but it's not because when you imagine, when I say God or life or nothingness, you imagine it has a will like a human.
So, divine will, no?
You could say divine will or God's will, but it's not a like you will look at that from a doership perspective as why he would want to express, or it would want to express in this way. And normally through looking in suffering, like in suffering and happiness, like what's the benefit, i.e. happiness being the good one and suffering not so good. But the empty watcher has no emotion or feeling or anything. That's what arises in it.
So God isn't a doer at all, just as we aren't doers. It has no preference.
It has no preference, but yet everything's been created by God. But it's not that, when I say God's will, it sounds like it's mind, like a separate self. It's just an energetic force expressing itself, or an energy expressing itself because it can, but not for any reason or motive or desire, or for it to be a certain way. And when the self's removed out of that, when the idea that you're a separate self who can do and make life, this is seen as absolute love and divinity.
So the love that's often experienced by people who seem to plunge into the absolute.
Yeah.
Why then love? Why not? Why love? Love seems like provocative emotion rather than a blank sheet. Like it's got it kind of paints a picture like everything's born out of God's heart for a longing to experience her, and there's an explosion of the heart and love and bliss ripple out.
Yeah.
why love then? Why not hate? Why not destruction?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. It is who you are is absolute love, but not the heart chakra sensation of love. Not that feeling of love. When people are talking about love, it sounds like they're talking about just this area of love. It's who you are is absolutely whole. And embraces everything. If you look at this empty space in the room, just imagine that the awareness changes from this awareness, looking from here, to the awareness going in the room. You can see the absolute intimacy of all this. Everything's kissing and hugging each other. It's all held so beautifully inside you. If you see yourself as this space, this watching that's happening, rather than it's beyond the separate self's idea of love. But love is a very confusing word because people think it's this. But it's
Do you want to ask another question?